Folks, what did you think? Right on. Okay, without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to introduce our special guest tonight. He was the star of the film you just watched. He played Jerry Renault. Ladies and gentlemen, Ilan Mitchell-Smith. Thank you. Hey. Get comfy. Welcome to the Frida stage.
Thank you.
You're very, very welcome.
Hey, everybody.
Well, let me just start off by saying thank you so much for joining us. It was just, I was having an emotional experience back there revisiting this film and picturing myself at 14, for one thing, being hyper obsessed with this soundtrack.
Yeah.
And that piano piece by Scott, what was his last name? The piano piece that plays a few times in the movie, that's on the soundtrack, was kind of like The Smiths and The Cure depression listening in my room. That soundtrack was like, I loved 80s soundtracks, but this was when I'm a depressed 80s soundtrack until I discovered Michael Nyman, and then it was that for a while. But this soundtrack was incredible, and I think what's amazing about it is this film has a real signature vibe. It's got a tone that is its own, and I think the music lends itself to that a lot. The color palette lends itself to that.
Yeah.
And one of the things I was wondering, and I don't know how intimately you worked on the production of the film, but how much of I've always wondered this, do you know how much of the walls were hand painted for the film? Because they all had this blurry, almost like a chalkboard that's just been erased. There was a lot of, everything seemed antiquated, and like it's losing its color and falling apart. And I don't know, was that where you shot? It was already like that, or do you know if they went and there's a lot of intent to run that down? And again, it may not be something that you were privy to, but
Yeah, I don't think it was. It's a great observation. That's definitely the case. And I remember that vibe, being in all of the locations. But we didn't. As I remember it, we didn't have permission to mess with that much stuff. We were in real apartments and that old school, and I think it was more just a matter of scouting out the right kinds of places. But I really don't know, what happened before I got to the set.
Sure, everything just seemed mooded in color.
It was definitely
rainy and gloomy.
Yeah, Seattle had a lot to do with that.
Sure.
But also, but I think that was also his vision. He had a definite thing that he was going for.
That's great. And then, so was this Keith Gordon's first movie? As a director, obviously, he'd been an actor before that.
I think it was. Yeah, I think it was.
And what was it like? How much of a role did you have working with him and shaping? Well, actually, tied to that, had you read the book before the movie?
No, I hadn't.
Okay, yeah. It had sort of a following, and I was one of the questions I'm going to ask is, had you read it? What it was like, what sort of internal dialogues you had about bringing this character that a lot of kids, responded to, and that they found as a cult hero, almost like a Holden Caulfield-esque character, to be the person to portray that role. But how much work did you do with Keith Gordon on sort of shaping the identity of the character, and then how much freedom did he give you to do the same?
It's he was a great director to work with, and I don't know that I remember doing a lot of work on shaping the character as much as just him giving very small direction in the scene and getting a sense of what the vibe that he was looking for was, But he was intensely into every scene, and you kind of got into step with him. That's what I remember doing, and I remember just not wanting to vary from that thing that he was going from, if that makes sense.
No, it does, yeah.
There's a scene where I'm sitting in the hospital with the woman who played my mother, and I remember looking over at him, and he was I could tell that he was just about to cry, or that he just had from that scene, and I didn't know what the backstory of it was, but I was like, God, I don't want to fuck this up, let me just go with what I think we're doing here, and I think everybody on the set had that feeling.
That's excellent. Yeah, I mean, it was interesting going back and seeing, because I think I saw the film. I was already really, really big into films when I was a kid, but I hadn't connected who Keith Gordon was until later. I'm like, oh, it's the like. And when I was thinking about it, he's worked with De Palma, he's worked with John Carpenter at such a young age, and I always wondered how much of that working with the and other big directors. I think with De Palma twice, if memory serves, and like how that may have shaped. His just experience working with these very visual and auteur filmmakers, because there's a lot of visual poetry in this film, and especially the dream sequences are really haunting.
They are, yeah. But I mean, I wasn't really privy to that when when we were filming. You know, I was just trying to do my job on the set and do a good job of it. But I didn't know where it was going or what he was thinking about. We didn't have those kinds of conversations.
Did he do anything with the actors? Like, did you all just kind of share a dynamic, or did he, because obviously did he separate you from the other actors at all, or do that sort of thing that directors do, or were you just all hanging out and then boom, you're in character, action, go?
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of like interference or like what might cross over into like method style acting nothing like that. That was the closest and tightest set that I was ever on, and maybe even the tightest workplace I've ever been to. Like, I just have such fond memories of a bunch of the people. There's some people I didn't hang out as much with, for whatever reason, but we were all very close and we all hung out a lot, and I have really good memories of a lot of the people on that set.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of memories, one of the things, it was a trip, obviously, sitting with you watching the movie, and you'd mentioned, how long has it been since you saw this film?
I think, I mean, I was 18 then, and I'm 56 now, and I think I saw it maybe when it came out in the theater, and that's it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I don't love watching myself, so.
We hear that a lot from guests. It's, yeah, you're not alone. But
yeah,
just curious to know.
Like, to the detriment of whatever films I did. Yeah. If I was really into watching myself, I probably would have done a better job. But,
sure. You were fantastic. But like, one of the things I'm wondering, though, to the level that you're comfortable sharing, but as you were revisiting it, just do you have a couple memories or a couple thoughts that came to mind, or anything like seeing yourself, remembering the shoot, anything at all that, again, to the level you're comfortable sharing?
I mean, I'm comfortable sharing everything, but I don't know how much time we have. Like, it's it's weird, like, because I don't think about that on a regular basis, but like every one of those shots was in a place that had a smell. You know what I mean? And like that, like right off the bat, like that, I wasn't like expecting to smell that smell again, but like there I was, and then, like, I'm not sure what's going on with my hair, you know, like that was. But I loved the hairdresser so goddamn much. Yeah. Her name was Omi, and she was pregnant, and her little boy is named Ilan. Okay. And I mean, not after me. It's not like she was like, "This is the best kid ever. I want my," you know. But she liked the name, and I managed not to be a bastard enough to ruin it. Right. And little Ilan Ota is a pianist, you know, in the world right now. And every once in a while, I Google his ass. You know, I've never met him, but like I listen to some of his music. And so that like comes back just as I'm thinking, like, God, what was going on with my hair? Like, but then I think about Omi and like her doing it and joking about like the people on the set that she didn't like, and Wally, the guy who played Archie, had this, like, he had a great wife, and we were all, the budget was very low for that, and I see, like, I'm at risk of just going on, but the budget was very low, and so we were all posted up in a Motel 6 in outside of Seattle, so we weren't in Seattle. And so we ended up being kind of tight, and so I got to know Wally and his wife really well, and they had this crazy dog that was like a big dog body with small dog legs, you know, like, you know, just like doing its thing, running around. I love that fucking dog, and like, you know, yeah, every scene brought back like these memories that I just haven't thought of or felt for a long time, Yeah, and you know, I had worked with Jenny Wright on a previous movie. What's that? What?
We're fans of the wildlife.
Oh, the wildlife. Okay, good. Yeah, you must be the two. Nice. And like when I did the wildlife, I was 14 turning 15, and she was basically as old as she was then. But then I was like 18, so it like somehow made sense that I would kiss her. And that like mattered to me at the time because I had a wicked crush on her. Yeah, so there was like every scene like it's a little bit of an emotional thing to watch it.
It's funny, we were talking about Jenny Wright before the movie, because I was saying Trevor, our programmer, and I were talking recently about we should do a Jenny Wright-a-thon, because it's just a name that doesn't really get spoken of a lot today, but Pink Floyd, The Wall, Near Dark,
yeah.
I mean, great movies that are staples here, that you know, that are cult classics, and that she just had this very distinctive presence. That was dreamy and very 80s, you know. So that was she wonderful to work with. Twice you worked with her.
She was, but you know, I was never in that many scenes with her, and so like I remember her from the rap party, from the wildlife, and talking to her, and she was so nice, and also a little bit flirty, which like hit me hard. And then for this one, she was there for like she flew in for like 2 days of filming. And it was great to see her and hang out with her, but I didn't get to know her all that well, you know.
Great. Let me turn it over to the audience. Does anyone have a question there? Yes, right back there.
Did you ever meet Robert Cormier?
The author of the book.
Yeah, I think I did. Yeah, I have a memory of meeting him and talking with him, but I think. But not. I didn't get to know him. I think there was just a moment when there was some moment where he was in the same place that I was, and I met him, and I remember. And I remember talking to him, but it's so long ago that I don't have a great memory of it. Sorry about that.
Was there in the original shooting script? Was the book's ending included, or was that alternate ending that doesn't have, because the book has a very different ending?
Yeah, but you know, if I'm being like, I didn't read the book, and I felt really bad about that while I was filming. Like I thought, like if I was a real like serious guy about this, I would be reading that book. But I was super nerdy, and I was very interested in some other things, you know.
So in the original script, in that first script that you read, you wanted to fight at the end. That was in the first script.
Yeah, it was, as I remember it, that was always the case. And I knew that it had been different. And then later on, I don't even know when, I think I was going to, I ended up going to school, and I ended up staying in school. I ended up staying in school for a long time, and now I'm an English teacher. And at some point, I went to a classroom, and I kind of taught the book and then talked about the movie. And so I read the book for that. And the end was pretty much the main thing that I talked about, and what the implications were of this ending versus the other one. But I remember this being always the case, as opposed to the book, which does a different thing. I mean, this is darker, right? Yeah.
The book has a more depressing ending if you think about it. I mean, Renault gets some crap eaten out of him, like cancer, but this one this is more of a psychological.
Yeah. Yeah, that we all buy into the system as opposed to like that we're ground down by. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it was interesting watching this with older eyes, because I don't think as a kid I really recognized just how much Archie is not in control. Like as a kid, I just saw like every bully I've ever had in Archie.
Yeah.
And as I'm watching it this time around, I'm just seeing an amazing face actor that Wally had,
Oh my
that
God,
Wally
yeah.
was, because there's a lot that's just not spoken. That's just in the tension in his face and his eyes, and the way Gordon might linger on him for a little bit longer to show that there's some conflict going on there.
Yeah, I mean, like theoretically, the movie is about my character, but it's definitely starring Wally. You know, like my job was to be conflicted, my job was to be in pain, and Wally's like he's just an amazing actor.
It's filled. I mean, John Glover is incredible in this.
Yeah.
I mean, he's incredible in this.
He is, and I remember watching that dude like wave that stick around and like somehow like in my mind, like obviously I didn't say anything, but I remember thinking like he's overdoing it. Like this isn't gonna play, and then like I was 100% wrong,
Well, I feel like we see his character when he's with his accountant.
Yeah.
We see the act he puts on when he's with the students in his classroom. I feel like what I love about his performance is he's not at 11 the whole movie. He's at 11 when he's grandstanding.
Yeah.
Which I really,
but
really
then
dig.
He brings it right down.
But then
That's great.
Which is fantastic. But yeah, I mean, everyone was incredible, and and they all worked well together. And do you remember how much pre-rehearsals or anything, or did you go right in there with like micro-budget films? Sometimes it's like you show up and you go, but did you have opportunities for readings and to meet Glover and build dynamics?
I don't remember. I don't think we had a tremendous amount of rehearsing beforehand, and we were on a very small budget. And so what I remember is meeting everybody there on the location, and I think we did do some rehearsing there, but it wasn't the thing where like we were in LA, like in a soundstage, like running through everything before we got to the location. Like the location was the place where everything happened, as I remember it.
Do you remember, because I first saw the film, I remember at home, it was on VHS, introduced to it by my sister. Thanks again, Giselle. It was one of our favorites. We just watched over and over, and then sitting back there, I'm like, how is this movie I watched over and over at 50? It's so dark, but I just loved it. I loved it. I don't remember how its theatrical release went or how it was, what the reception was. Do you recall what that was like? Festivals, anything at all, or?
I don't. I think it did well for what Keith was trying to do with it, but it was never going to be like a blockbuster. Sure. And so, some people saw it. Like I was telling you before, by the time I was in school, I tended not to talk about acting that much just because it doesn't come up. And so I was going out with this girl, and she didn't know I had been an actor, but like at some point she talked to my friend, and she said that one of her favorite movies was The Chocolate War. And my friend was like, "That's Ilan." And she was like, "Really?" And we just started going out. That's my wife who's sitting in the back now. I ended up marrying. We got married. Oh no, she's in front. And so like some people saw it, but I do remember like hearing that story at the time, being like, "Oh, okay, there's another one who saw it," because like you could kind of count them. It wasn't like a big thing.
Yeah, no, I heard from what I have read, it didn't lose money. Like it actually did have a run and was seen. I just missed it, and then later on saw it on VHS. But I always wondered, how did this do?
Yeah,
cinematically.
I don't think it would have lost money.
Yeah,
because
it didn't cost.
That bar was low, Yeah. But the people that Keith wanted to see it, I think, saw it, and it found its way to people like you, which is exactly what he would have wanted, what we all wanted.
Right on. And you haven't, in the last, there have been, I'm just curious to know, like when you heard from me, and thank you again, Lily Mansfield, for connecting us. When you heard from Lily, hey, there's a theater, so I want to know all of it, do you rarely get, hi, we're a theater, we want to screen The Chocolate War, will you come talk and present at this film? Was it kind of out of nowhere, or do you get requests throughout the years for this particular movie?
No.
Wow. Okay.
I don't. But I don't get a lot of requests in general. It's been a really long time since I was an actor, and the one thing that a lot of people know me from, like mostly I was the other guy. You know what I mean? Like in Weird Science, There were two main kids, and the other guy, Anthony Michael Hall, was like, was and is a big star. So I'm not like overwhelmed by requests in general, but like every once in a while I will go to like a Where Are They Now thing where I'm signing. Usually if Anthony Michael Hall is there, if Kelly LeBrock is there, and my guy who brings me like takes care of all the photos and everything, which is great. And there's stacks of of photos from everything. Like, he has not had to replace the photos for this. He got the one, and that's going to stay there. Yeah, I mean, I did a TV series for a while also that nobody ever saw. So those two are like, we're good to go on those.
Which one was that?
It was a TV series called Superboy. That is not the Superboy that anybody saw. Like, it was a whole nother Superboy.
Yeah.
And I was like the Superboy's quirky roommate.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey. Yeah.
I'm almost the same age as you are. I saw this in the theater. I went to a Catholic high school. This movie means a lot to me. It captures the lonely side of high school. I'm wondering, over the years, like, people that have talked to you about this movie, do they relate to it on a personal basis, like things that they have gone through?
I'm trying to remember, this might be the most I've talked about this movie with people. But yeah, I just don't have that many memories of interacting with people who had seen the movie. But the movie does that. It captures that quite well. And all the ambiance that we were talking about before, like the kind of drear of it all, like, it does that super well. So it's great that it worked for you. And I'm really glad that it did. I just don't know if I've been in a lot of conversations with people about that, other than my wife.
It's important for people that really love this movie to tell you that you had an effect on our lives.
Oh, thanks so much. That means a tremendous amount, and I'm so glad you said that. Yeah.
We were talking earlier, if I may share, my sister and I, that we also went to a Franciscan high school. So we went through a Catholic school from kindergarten all the way through high school, and our high school was Franciscan. So we also had a connection to this film, not just in its being a Catholic school, but specifically in being a Franciscan school, where it's brother instead of father. And what's interesting is, there are some things, the bullying and the sort of hierarchical things that I responded to, but, and I look at it, I'm like, I don't remember there being so much corruption. But then you grow up and you start to learn about what happened in your school while you were there. And actually, our high school was in the news, last week with a big corruption scandal. So, yeah, what in a nutshell, what happened? Something about...
paying families to recruit their sons for the football team.
Bishop Montgomery, yeah, that's where I went. Okay, so you're aware of the story. But that's like the third major scandal over the last 30 years that I'm like, that happened at my high school? So it's interesting, these sorts of things that, this corruption that happens with money and the swimming pool that never happened, all the things with our high school. So yeah, I can totally relate to what you're saying. And Heaven Help Us was another big film. I don't know if that we used to watch a lot too But any other, yes.
I was just going to jump on that because, we were talking earlier with Ilan about how my memory of the Franciscans was so different from the ones from the film. But then watching it again now, I'm like, oh my God, all our teachers were Bud Court. So it was more that I couldn't relate to the bad guy. That is what stuck in my memory. But that scene with Bud Court where he's just, let me just go in and play along with these kids was just perfect with what I remember, like in high school.
Same. I had a lot more Bud Cort than John Glover. Fortunately, fortunately.
He seems like the one to have.
And he was a perfect. Speaking of Bud Cort too, because again, the movie reminds me a lot of 70s cinema, just in how it approaches character, the stillness of it all. The introduction of music, introduction suddenly of what would be considered a surreal visual, mostly in dream sequences, but sometimes just in someone sort of dissociating a little bit, the bed on the football field, things like that. And I always wondered if the Bud Cort inclusion was sort of Keith Gordon's tribute to Hal Ashby or Harold and Maude. If he was a big fan, I wouldn't know, he's not here, but yeah.
I mean, I think he was excited to have him part of the project, and we all kind of were, and so that was part of the conversation. But I don't remember him saying specifically like this is going to be the thing that like the tribute to that movie. But like obviously it was going to be, because that guy just hasn't been in that many things, you know?
Sure, right. No, yeah.
So yeah.
It was always interesting to see him pop up after like now he's in But I'm a Cheerleader and you won't see him again, or Dogma. Like he would be very selective about the films he was with, but they were always, you know, these auteurish sort of very sort of personal films. You know, Dogma was very personal to Smith, and But I'm a Cheerleader to Babbitt, and certainly this just feels like a very personal film to Keith Gordon. I know nothing about Keith Gordon, but when I watch it, I'm like, this had to be personal for this filmmaker.
Yeah, and like I said, there were moments, you could tell he was invested, and I didn't know, like, his background or where he came from or why this was so meaningful for him, but I knew that it really was. And, you know, and all of us, like I said, it wasn't a huge budget, and none of us were making that much money off of it. And so part of the spirit on the set was really that we all kind of wanted to be there. And like, we had no business affording the kind of musicians that, you know what I mean? And I remember him saying, like, I just sent the script, and Peter Gabriel was like, okay, fine, no problem, you know? Because that, like, we couldn't have afforded a straight business transaction. It had to be someone being like, I believe in this somehow, or I like this.
Right on. Yeah, no, I have to. I really do think this was my introduction to Yaz and Kate Bush, and certainly that really haunting piano piece that has lived in my DNA for the last like 30 years, and Peter Gabriel. To the point that when was a couple of years ago when Running Up That Hill became popular, like, oh yeah, they used it in a show finally, and I'm like, look, yeah. But no, it's just it's an incredible soundtrack, and I mean, I don't know how many of the artists may have like given them like really good deals to use the music, because you hear that now that the budget sometimes is like the soundtrack, and then they pay for everything else. You know?
No, across the board, I think all the artists were somehow like into the idea of the film.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious, Ilan, if you have a difference in how you perceived any of the characters now watching it as an adult versus when you were filming it as a kid, where, you know, I'm the freshman that's being bullied and these are the bad guys, you know. Because I feel like I haven't matured at all, because I'm still, for some reason, Team Archie. Like, I
Really?
to him as a kid, like, God, this poor kid is in this horrible situation, even though he's a bully. I mean, and now, don't look at me like that. But even now, as an adult, I like should feel even more empathy for him. And I'm wondering.
Is this why you became a child psychologist?
Yes.
Okay. this movie.
It's like, you know, do you see any difference in how you are processing the characters now versus when you were a kid filming it in that position?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm still seeing it through the same eyes that I watched it before, and the experience is the same for me mostly. I mean, there's other things that happen, like, I think for everybody, like sometimes you wonder why that 37-year-old is in high school, you know, because like some of those guys are not kids.
You mentioned you kept talking about Wally's wife, and I'm like, wife? Why you guys? How old was that actor?
I mean, I had just turned 18, I think, and he was probably 22, 23.
Okay, yeah.
So I think he got married young, but like, you know, he was married, he had a dog and a house and like the whole, like what one does, you know? And Doug, who played Obi, I think he was like getting close to 30 maybe, or he was in his 30s, like that dude was a little bit older. So I still see it through the same eyes pretty much. I mean, at the time, I think everybody did a really good job, and I don't remember that being the takeaway. Like, I remember thinking, like, that worked, it was okay, and, like, all the things that I wished that I had done differently, you know. But this time around, I was really kind of blown away by Goober and how good he was with the small acting in his face. And so I think I noticed that a little bit more this time, maybe because I was less stressed about, like, whether it was going to work or whether it was going to be okay.
Excellent. And how did you get cast? What was the casting process for this? Remember?
I mean, not in a way that's satisfying. I mean, sorry, I don't.
It's okay.
It's a long
It's all
time.
right.
I mean,
It's okay.
you get these snippets, you
Yeah.
know, that I don't. So I had been in a few things before that. So often what happened at the time, I don't know how it is now, but at the time, like, I would enter the process after a couple rounds of like them seeing people, because they had already seen my work and they had seen a photo, and I was and I can tell you exactly what that room looked like I was in, and it was in the 50s on the east side in New York, and there was like a table that was like a U, and I was sitting here. Like, I don't remember the whole process. I just remember that there was a table that was a U, and there was a very.
So you came in and auditioned, and just like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
saw. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Keith was reading with me, and I made a connection with him. Like, we had eye contact when I was saying things, and I just felt real good about it just because of that contact that we had. And I remember thinking, like, that went well, you know? Not that I, like, knocked it out of the park with my choices, but just that, like, that we were in there kind of, like, acting the thing together, and I felt like that, where sometimes you leave and you just don't feel that at all.
Excellent.
So that's what yeah.
Thanks. We maybe have time for a couple more questions. Don't be shy. Yeah.
Can we go off the board for a second? What's your favorite memory of John Hughes?
I mean, John Hughes is a great guy, and I have a lot of good memories of him. And it's hard to, there's a scene in Weird Science where like the magic of what happens in the movie makes everything in the kitchen blue. And he was talking to us about the scene and about directing and something, and he like reached over and grabbed like a bright blue potato chip and ate it while he was talking, and like and just kept on going, you know, just ate that chip, and like we were all like, what just happened? And later on I was like, those were spray painted, right? And he was like, anything for a laugh. And I just remember thinking, wow, man, like, you just poisoned yourself. That's commitment. But also he kind of played it off. He was a really cool guy, but you got the sense that he had not always been. And so I like that memory of him eating the chip. And I have other memories that I like from him, and especially his interest in music, which I learned a lot about music from the people I worked with. And I always liked that. The wildlife, as you know, is Cameron Crowe, who's like plugged into a lot of music. But I felt like somebody was talking to me about Weird Science, and it was like, you know, sometimes parents show their kids. So this was a girl who was like 15 or something, and she was like, I love Weird Science. And she was like, and you're like a golden nerd. Because like most people in movies, they play nerds, but they're not really nerdy. But you're like more nerdy than your character, and that matters. And it's true. Like, I am probably the nerdiest person that most people will meet. Maybe not in these surroundings, but like for most of the time. Like, if there's a nerdy thing, I do it. And I remember feeling like that was John maybe too, right? That he was super cool and super in charge, but that maybe growing up, he had been the kind of nerd that he was writing about. And I liked that memory of him.
Do you have any just distinctive favorite memories shooting the Chocolate War? Or of Keith? I mean,
yeah, Keith's partner at the time, and I think maybe still, I don't know, it was Rachel, and I liked both of them a lot. And I have a lot of memories of what they both looked like laughing, and they laughed in very different ways. You know, Keith was kind of like a that laugher, and Rachel was like a that, and I liked that a lot. And I remember the room that we used for hair and makeup, and I hung out there a lot. And there was a sound guy who, like, you know, it was a great experience, and I've been really lucky to have stumbled into being an actor, and a lot of good things came to me from that. So I'm going to be the first person to always be thankful that that happened, and to acknowledge that I got super lucky. Especially because I don't think I had that much skill, so it really was luck, you know. But it's also, that being said, it can sometimes be super lonely. And so I have really good memories of hanging out with Wally, but I was young to do that. Like, we weren't best friends. They like had me over to their room sometimes, or like we went out to dinner. And the same thing with Keith and Rachel, but I spent a lot of time in my room with like role-playing games, just like designing stuff and rolling dice. And there was a sound guy who was really nice, who lived in Seattle, and he had a daughter named Destiny. And for whatever reason, like he would have me over to his house, and sometimes I would sleep over. I think just because he knew that I was like alone there in the Motel 6 with like with BattleTech and a BB gun, you know, like that. Those were my two best friends. So that was a really nice memory too. I'm not in touch with them anymore, but hanging out with them was really nice.
It's excellent. Well, you say very humbly that you feel like you didn't have a lot of talent to bring in, but one of the things that I always respect about this film is that as a protagonist and as, you know, essentially the conflicted hero of the movie, you're not anywhere as talky as Wally was, as John Glover was. It's all, you know, and the scenes where you say no, I think are incredibly well acted.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. It's hard.
Got to carry. It's got to. I mean, the defiance, but also the vulnerability, and you know, the difference between the no's of I can't because I'm under pressure versus the no's of this is in my hands now and I'm saying no are so distinctively done. That's just one of the things I appreciate about your performance.
You talking about that is 100% like bringing me back to those moments where I'm like, okay, these are the things that I need to be thinking that I'll do with my eyes. But in watching it, like, it's just very easy to be critical, especially if it's like movies matter to people. And like, this is what you said, right? And they matter to me. Like, the movies that matter to me are just super important. And you just don't want to mess that up. And so watching it here, I'm like, oh, would less have been more there? You know, like, there's like a whole long list of things. But I appreciate you saying that, and I'm glad that it worked for you.
For sure. Does that happen every time? Is that why you don't like to revisit? Because you're just always 100%. Critiquing yourself?
Yeah, I'm always like, yeah.
No, I totally understood. Yes.
I was on screen some years ago with, I forget what, it may have been The Big Easy, and Dennis Quaid was there with one of his kids, and they walked out during the sex scene, specifically so her son wouldn't see that scene. And there was no sex in this one, but I know that your daughter had never seen it and was here watching it with you today. So
Yeah, my daughter Basil is in the back there.
yeah, so my thought was there anything going through your mind about your child now watching this for the first time now?
I mean, I was wondering, we haven't had a chance to talk about it yet. So I mean, I was wondering how it was for her and whether she liked it or whether, like, if I'm being perfectly honest. Like,
thumbs up?
Was that thumbs up? All right, nice, cool. If I'm being perfectly honest, like, I would love for my acting to have been the thing that I'm like, just throw it at my kids and be like, boom, have a look at your dad. You know what I mean? But I'm not so confident with it. And so there was a little part of me that's like, oh God, what's Wheezy? Wheezy is her nickname. What's Wheezy thinking right now? Like, I wonder if she's noting the times that I thought maybe less would have been more, or something like that. Like, that went through my mind too. But and then I think afterwards we were talking a little bit. I have a son also, and both my daughter and my son look a lot like me. I think they look like my wife also. But and so I was thinking that when I was looking at myself, and I think that they were too, that it looks a lot like my son Asher. And then when we were talking, I was like, and it also looks exactly like you, Baz, you know?
I have to say on that note that it was really exciting before the movie started when you introduced Basil and you mentioned you'd never seen it, and I'm like, I'm proud of this moment. You get to see your dad's movie for the first time on the big screen, and,
Yeah.
and it looked really good too in a remastered
Yeah,
version. So
you should show all those episodes of Superboy too.
okay,
We'll come back for
I
it.
told you how many episodes are there.
Probably too many.
We're trying to get if we're doing all of Twin Peaks, we can do that. I think we have time for maybe one more. Don't be shy. It's okay. All right. Last chance. Yes. There you go.
I find I really like the genre of somebody resisting peer pressure. I don't really feel like I've seen that many like that. Can you think of anything else that's where the whole story is resisting, not authority, but even one's peers?
Like Mean Girls? Were you saying like what other movies do that same thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, and like Mean Girls does that, doesn't it? Heathers? Yeah. Easy A, yeah. Who said that? Yeah, nice. I love that movie. Yeah.
What's cool about this one though is like I think I think the distinction is between Mean Girls, Heather's, Easy A's, with maybe a couple teachers here and there, but it's really resistance against the bullying from their peers. And I can't think of a lot where the resistance against a corrupt administration and a corrupt teacher, whether or not Jerry even knew about the corruption. It's never clear that Jerry knew what brother Leon was doing. But clearly it was riling Brother Leon. I mean, he felt that he was being resisted against. The Vigils felt like they were being resisted against. I mean, it's so complex. That's what I love about this movie is that there's so much going on with power. Who's really in power? Brother Leon is essentially the villain of the movie, but he's under tremendous pressure to, he wants to keep his job. Wallady's character in any other movie would just be a stock bully, but you see the pressures he's under.
Right.
I mean, really, ultimately, Adam Baldwin's the big bad in this movie, in my opinion. But
yeah, but he's such a tool that like you can't
Sure.
like you get this, you do get like this disembodied sense of power and how it traffics everybody.
because I don't think he ever interacts with Brother Leon, Adam Baldwin's character.
Yeah, no, yeah.
But he's the one in the big chair. He's the
Yeah.
one that, which is interesting. His story. I don't know, as people, you've clearly read the book, yes. For a deep fan of this movie, is the book, and it's like you should really read this book because I just haven't. Yes, like I see a lot nodding. So that's my homework, is to catch up with the novel.
Yeah.
It has been an absolute pleasure
Thank you
to
so
have you
much.
here. Just thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you so much, and thanks everybody for coming to watch it.
It means a tremendous deal, and I mean it when I say this is just one of my favorite films, and it was a treat to watch it with you and with all of you. And who was here for the first time again? Sorry, who saw it for the first time again? I'm sorry.
Well, I hope-
Excellent, and I just everyone that's got their hands up are just kind of we're smiling. And you first time for you too? Okay, great. Thanks for giving a chance to a film that was maybe hadn't heard of. We love our audiences here. Thanks for coming out and watching movies and hearing from our guests.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming, and I hope you enjoyed it. And those who had seen it before, I'm so glad that you liked it.
Have a good night, everybody. Thank you. Let's hear it one more time for our amazing guest, Ilan Mitchell-Smith. Thank you so much.